Hey, everyone, and welcome to another review here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw, John Rocha, joined us for these reviews like I've been joined lately, and that is my man over there, Shannon McClung, 1/3 of the Geek Buddies. How are you, Shannon?
I'm okay, Johnny. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I tweeted this out. I said, I can't believe how excited I am to talk about these episodes for Ted Lasso. That's what we're reviewing today, episodes 4 through 7. This is a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched episodes 4 through 7, please go do so. Then come back and watch our review of this. Our first review, the first 3 episodes, has gotten over 2,000 views. It's pretty fantastic. A little engine that could, as people are discovering this this show, Shannon, people are coming over and watching our review of the show. The first 3 episodes.
That's very nice to hear. I mean, much like Ted Lasso himself. He is the little coach that could. He is coaching a sport that he has no previous coaching experience with. Little by little, he's making some headway.
Yeah, ever the optimist. That's for damn sure. And like I said, I was saying earlier, I tweeted out about how excited I am because I think I've fallen in love with this show in a way that I haven't fallen in love with a show in quite some time. There were maybe, I don't know, I could count on my 2 hands the amount of shows that I saw the first season and found myself just infinitely falling in love with the characters. And it's a show that's it's a straightforward comedy. It's a deceptively straightforward comedy with actual real human stuff going on underneath, human connections, human relationships, and all the good and the bad that can happen sometimes when you have ulterior motives in the world of business, in the world of sports, and in the world of being a human being. And certainly that all comes to bear in episodes 4 through 7, Shannon.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's obviously a comedy, great leading cast, but they also have a really terrific supporting cast. Yeah. And for American audiences, we don't know who a lot of these people are. So they are brand new to us. And Nick Mohammed, Taheeb Jimoh, is it Brett Goldstein who plays Roy Kent?
Yes.
These guys, they're not overly familiar to American audiences. So we're just falling in love with these guys. I mean, you can't wait to see what happens if something happens with Roy and Keeley. Sam is finding his confidence. He's finding his place on the team. Yeah. The same with Nate the Great. And we'll get to episode 7. But just the show is, I think a lot of comedies nowadays, they tend to go very blue. Yeah. Which is fine. You know, everyone loves a fun little dirty comedy. Sure. And a lot of them go kind of mean-spirited. And there is not, this is just a charming show. And charming is not a descriptive term that gets used a lot with half-hour television. I mean, this reminds me of the first season of Pushing Daisies. Yeah,
that's actually a great connection to that. Even the first season of Scrubs, and that's no coincidence since Bill Lawrence is the executive producer of the show who did Scrubs. Him and Jason Sudeikis working on this one with our friend Brendan Hunt, who plays the assistant coach, or Beard as he's called by
Coach Beard.
Yeah, but Coach Beard, exactly, by Ted Lasso. You mentioned a bunch of actors, of course. Nick Mohammed playing Nathan. Brett Goldstein is playing Roy Kent. Also, got to give love to Jeremy Swift as Higgins. All these actors start to take a little more center stage now that we've established things from episodes 1 through 3. Hannah Waddingham as Rebecca, the owner of the team. She really comes forward. For those who may not know who she is the nun who is saying shame behind Cersei in the Game of Thrones and does all of that. And of course, we mentioned Brendan Hunt, but Juno Temple as well as Keeley has been such a standout. And in these episodes, we get a new character coming in. Cristo Fernandez playing Dani Rojas, the Mexican transfer striker that they've brought in, who has been injured and is now recovered from his injury and is ready to take over, just as Jamie Tart is being sent back to Manchester City because he was benched by Coach Lasso. That's Phil Dunster, who plays Jamie Tart. What are the name of the episodes from 4 through 7 that we're going to cover here, Shannon?
Yeah, they are. Episode 4 is For the Children. That is where Rebecca hosts a sort of like a gala, like a charity event. Yeah. We have episode 5, which is Tan Lines, which sees the arrival of Ted Lasso's wife, played by Andrea Anders, and his son. We have 2 Aces, which is where you get the introduction of Dani Rojas and possibly a curse that has affected the team. Yes. And last, episode 7 is Make Rebecca Great Again, where Richmond has to go to a town in Liverpool that they have not defeated in like 60 years. And Rebecca and Keeley join the team, and also a old friend of Rebecca's is there as well.
Yeah, Everton is the place they go to for those of you who are big Premier League watchers. There are a lot of inside jokes if you're a Premier League fan throughout these last 4 episodes. For example, when Higgins comes in and starts to talk to Rebecca about replacing Ted Lasso, because if you remember from the first 3 episodes, you find out Rebecca's brought in Ted to fail on purpose so that she can get back to at her ex-husband, who is a devious man, and we find that out in that first episode 4, when he comes into the auction and makes it all about himself. And we all know those people who make everything about themselves, the closet sociopaths who make everything about themselves. And certainly we see that. And it's a nice, that's what I mean. Like when Shannon says charming, he's absolutely right. It is a charming show because of what Jason Sudeikis does with Ted Lasso. But there's also a real bubbling surface, bubbling on the surface is a little bit of darkness with how people have these kind of nefarious goals or nefarious means of which are trying to achieve an overall goal. Certainly, Rebecca's ex-husband is that. Rebecca has a little bit of that herself because she's still kind of in that place of wanting the team to fail so she can get back at her husband. But as these episodes progress from 4 to 7, we see that she's slowly kind of realizing that this may be something she's going to have to deal with down the road as she becomes closer and closer with Ted, as he's there for her, as he was at the charity auction when he got that guy to go up on stage to replace Robbie Williams, and then later on in episode 7 when he has the panic attack outside. She is there to stroke his face, to calm him down, to make sure he's okay before he walks off to the hotel room, and then, of course, subsequently has, which I imagine probably has sex with Rebecca's friend, who shows up in episode 7. Also, what we get here, Shannon, is the slow progression of this relationship between Roy and Keeley as well. We see that Jamie Tart and Keeley break up. I think after the auction episode, they break up. Jamie tries to come back to Keeley, and Keeley is putting up the boundaries there. But then Roy is kind of slowly working his way into Keeley's heart through no intention of his own. And I like the way this is working. Like one person takes the initiative, the other person takes the initiative, until we end up with them walking back from that club after they've beaten Everton in episode 7 and share that kiss by the hotel door. What was your feeling about that?
I thought it was great, and I thought it was perfectly in character that at the end of this epic, emotionally building kiss, that he immediately does an about face and leaves. Because at this point, you get this, he's been in the league for years. He has a very rough exterior, and part of this has to do with his upbringing. The other part is being in the league for so long, and he has learned to protect himself. Yeah. So he's not going, the floodgates aren't going to open. It's not good. Like the dam, it's going to be a little crack in the dam, and it's going to be slow and gradual. Yeah. So, anytime the two of them have a moment, it's just sweet. Yeah. Even though, again, she's a little out there and maybe even a little coarse at times, like when she's watching her thing in the hotel in Liverpool, and she's just, I don't even remember doing this. You're right. And then he also he's not warm and fuzzy, at least not at the beginning. And anytime they have that moment of connection, it's just so sweet. Right. And that would be another term that I use for the show. It is a sweet show, and it's sweet, but not saccharine. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's not cheesy sweet. It's actually like, you hope the world is like this kind of sweet, which you appreciate. And certainly we see the germs of that relationship coming forward, to the foundation rather, during that auction sequence when, we find out, or Keeley finds out from Rebecca, that Jamie has brought another girl as his +1, and she's the one bidding on Jamie. When Keeley finds this out, she turns around and starts to bid on Roy. And then Roy, and this is a surprise, and this is why I think this show is so well written, Shannon. We have that sequence where Roy comes over and says, "Don't make me a pawn in your games between each other." And Keeley is legitimately
taken aback by the fact that she's done this. Like, she's legitimately hurt that she was insensitive in a way that she was accusing Jamie of being insensitive to her. So it's great little layers that are being added to these characters as we spend more time with them as the season progresses, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And even some of the minor characters who in the back half of the order, they're starting to get a little more focused, like Isaac and Colin. They were basically Jamie's flunkies.
Right.
And now, like, especially when Jamie got benched, and he's like, guys, go set up the cones after Ted says, you're on the bench, go set up the cones for drills. And he tells them both to go do it, and they both refuse. And you get the scene in episode 7 where Nate is kind of, having to come to Jesus with a bunch of people.
Right.
And they're each of them got a little bit more of a focus. Like, do you wax your pubes? Then stop playing like a Brazilian. Which, again, I don't know football, but I'm kind of like, well, I know that's a burn.
Just the way it's delivered. I get that it's a burn, right?
100%.
That's a term, getting a Brazilian. That's a term about waxing. So it's just that's that shot there. And you're right. I mean, Nate really kind of steps to the forefront over these next 4 episodes as he becomes a more valued member of Coach Lasso's team. Coaching staff, rather. Him and the Beard, Coach Beard, and of course Brendan Hunt and Ted. They spend more time coming. And Ted, that's what's so great about. And Jason Sudeikis, of course, we're giving everybody shout outs, and we kind of can forget the lead because he's so good, but we shouldn't. Jason Sudeikis just such a great job over these last 4 episodes of taking the Coach Lasso story and again really playing these emotional moments and making them feel real. Even though he's an overly optimistic guy, he too can feel these emotions and have these explosions of anger and have these moments of frustration, have a panic attack, because he's dealing, what we find out here is, with a divorce. He's dealing with a woman who loved being with him and did love him at some point, but she has fallen out of love with him and can't find her way back to the way she felt before. And he's got to go through this journey of letting her go over these last 4 episodes. And it is some great acting work from Jason Sudeikis as he navigates this emotional journey for himself over these last 4 episodes.
Yeah, the needle that he is threading, like it might not seem like it to your normal viewer, but I mean, he's walking a very fine line, especially at the beginning with a character that could be construed as over the top or overly silly. But the more time we get to spend with him, you start to get a sense of his personality, that just because he's a nice guy does not mean he's a pushover. Yeah. You got that with Rupert. You got that with Rebecca's ex-husband, where he was kind of like, if you can call him to get him here, you just as easily could have called him to say, don't show up. Right. And when he really gives it to Jamie in episode 6, where he's just like, you, because you're hurt, you can't practice. Right. I mean, he's doing such fantastic work here. And obviously he's got great screen presence. He's very charming. He's very funny, but it's those little quiet moments that really, really bring us in as an audience and really get us on his side.
These are the things those quiet moments are what make us fall in love with him as a character. The quiet moment outside when he's having the beer after they finally got their victory and he's benched Jamie and he's having that beer with Coach Beard after all that, because he understands the divorce. Those are quiet moments. The quiet moments when he encourages Nate to tell the truth. And after Nate does it, he says, I told you it'd be good for you. I told you to enjoy it, and those little moments that even amidst all the emotional turmoil that he's going through inside, he's still able to find these really human, tender moments with the people he's grown close to in this insane journey coaching Richmond AFC or Richmond FC. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I do want to address one thing here, Shannon. I think some people, and especially some Latinos, might maybe get a little bit, as a Latino, let me speak to this, maybe get a little kind of like, are they turning Dani Rojas into a bit of a stereotypical joke when he talks about football is life? And those of us who know Spanish footballers, that is a little bit of a stereotype that they're playing with. But the fact that they make Dani really good at what he does, and the fact that they don't overplay that, and especially another one of those tender moments you spoke about, this one from Dani, when he looks at Ted in the office there with Coach Beard and he says, Coach, football is life, where he had been yelling it and cheering about it, blah, blah, blah. in this moment, he's saying, yeah, like everything else, there's disappointments, there's successes, there's great times, there's bad times. Football is life. And so even in that moment, you get a little more depth to Dani Rojas than you were initially presented with, him going toe-to-toe with Jamie kicking the ball on the goalposts, or the crossbar rather, and then later, of course, when they celebrate after they've gotten rid of the curse of the training room. What do you think about that? What do you think about Dani as a character, and what do you think about the curse situation here, the ceremony?
I rewatched all 4 episodes leading up.
Me too.
I watched them all again, and I'm certainly aware of the stereotype of the Latin American footballer.
Right.
That like I am aware of those stereotypes, but like watching that character, especially when he and Jamie were hitting the rim of the goal, and him not understanding where Jamie was coming from, kind of like Jamie's kind of like, well, F you, look at what I can do. And he just so loves the game.
Yeah.
Like like football is life. It reminded me, like obviously our Geek Buddies listeners know this, but I worked in Japan for 2 years. And as a performer for Universal Studios over there. And a lot of times when there was sort of a language barrier and a culture barrier, the thing that I was able to get on the same wavelength with the Japanese performer, where I didn't really speak their language and they didn't really speak my language, was that love of performing.
Yeah.
And you started to see that, especially at the end with Jamie. And when they were when they were throwing their items into the fire, and Jamie saying, I used to do this to make my mom proud.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't be, he's like, I don't think she would be very proud of me right now. Right. So you start to see this incredible growth of the character.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, like, wow, I've maybe not been the greatest guy. And obviously he has his feelings about Ted, which, we're getting stronger. I mean, he definitely still saw him as like the yeehaw, American coach. But I think that moment where he and Dani were both, trying to hit the rim of the goal, that he saw in Dani the thing that maybe he used to be, and the thing that he needs to try to get back.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I think the groundwork of that was laid when Coach Lasso and Roy Kent were having that conversation at the charity auction, when he says to Roy, "What were you like as a 22-year-old coming into the league?" And Roy kind of, begrudgingly admits that he was just like Jamie when he came into the league. He had all this arrogance and all this belief in himself. And then he has that, which kind of breaks Roy down a little bit, so that later on in the auction, when they're by the bar, Roy has that conversation with Jamie where he
great scene
where he talks about, I used to be like you, and there was this old guy on the team who really blah, blah, blah. And of course, they don't leave it at a happy ending in that are you guys still friends? Hell no, I hate that son of a bitch. I hope he's dead. But it's still, there's that lesson, right? There's that lesson within this thing that sometimes you can be so caught up in where you're at, you forget what you were like when you were in their position, right? And that applies like football is life. That applies like anywhere. You sometimes forget when you're looking at 20-year-olds doing stupid shit. You go to yourself, why are they doing that? And you forget, hey, I used to be 20 years old and doing stupid shit too. So there's that kind of stuff that you forget about as you go along in life. And I love that they brought that back with that relationship.
Yeah, with life and with characters. I mean, change doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Like you have that moment of understanding and connection between Jamie and Roy, where he's like, you know what? I grew up with a poster of you on my room. Yeah, I love watching you, but you're not the player you used to be. Like it's that sort of begrudging mutual respect, but that does not mean they are going to go out and be best friends.
It's the harsh realities of the circle of life, man. Yeah, one day you wake up, you're the young punk kid coming in with all the talent, everybody loves you, and then 10, 15 years later, it's the new punk kid coming in, and then you're suddenly the veteran on the team, and you're being slowly phased out. Both things are difficult to deal with when you're experiencing them, because you don't have the maturity to deal with it when you're entering in, for most part, when you're entering into a situation to be the lead of a team. And then when you're older, you don't have the talent like you did before, or the reflexes like you did before, to still lead that team like you used to. So, I mean, that's a great thing to add to the show as well. I do want to touch on the Rebecca stuff. She's also, Hannah Waddingham, doing a fantastic job as she progresses with her relation, with her character as well, her storyline, her arc, because we know at some point, Shannon, Ted's going to have to find out what she did. unless they're going to carry this on for the next few seasons, and he never finds out because they did already greenlight a second season. But at some point he's going to have to find out that she brought him over and whatever. And so we see her kind of still in that place. But then episode 7, when her friend who's played by Ellie Taylor, Flo Sassy Collins, comes into this thing, which I think is maybe a shout out to Mo Collins, who a lot of people love and is in Parks and Rec. Maybe that's a little why she's that name. I don't know.
I think that's a stretch.
It's a stretch. Because the vibe is kind of similar, sassy, talking to stuff. But anyway, she comes in and she reminds Rebecca of who she used to be. And even when she's talking to Keeley, who she's just befriended, she tells Keeley, that's not really Rebecca. The Rebecca I know is funny and, wouldn't let herself get pushed around and blah, blah, blah. And then her and Rebecca and Flo have that conversation outside the bar after they've beaten Everton. And she says to her, I don't know what we did. I don't know what we did, but we missed you for 6 years. But you got to take responsibility. Yeah, he locked you in an ivory tower, but you walked up every step of the way to get there. And I find that to be a really kind of awesome how can I say this? Therapy advanced approach to this situation, because it's very easy to say, oh, he's a bad guy, you're better than him, blah, blah, blah. This is no, he was a bad guy, but you willingly entered into this relationship, and then you willingly took every step into that ivory tower. So for 6 years, you stopped calling, you stopped seeing my goddaughter, you stopped hanging out with me. And the way back out of that is for you to admit what happened and then take responsibility. And I thought that was really a very well written scene and an honest scene between two friends.
Yeah, I mean, when Ted got the knock on his door at the end of episode 7, I did not think it was going to be Sassy. Like I thought it was going to be Rebecca.
Yeah.
Just because that's what they kind of teed up. And what the show has done brilliantly thus far is subverting expectations.
Yes, agreed.
But in a good way, not in an irritating I was going to say Last Jedi way. But then we don't need to go down that route.
We don't need to talk about it. From that.
But even the character of Rebecca, I mean, they establish her at the beginning. You think it's going to be Major League. They're like, you are the bad guy.
Absolutely. Yes.
And within, the course of 2 episodes, like, well, no, she's not the bad guy. This is a person who has been hurt. She's been hurt very greatly. And the only way she knows how to respond is take something from this person that did this awful thing to her, and I'm going to mess it up. Because that's the only way I can process this right now. Right. And you see, oh my God, the end of episode 6, when they're all, burning the stuff in the trash can, and you see how conflicted she is.
Yes.
But she ultimately makes the choice to like, nope, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm sticking to my original plan. And Ted is absolutely going to find out. And there's only one person who can tell him, and it's not Rebecca.
Nope, it's Higgins.
It's Higgins.
Higgins knows all this stuff. And Higgins is slowly also, Jeremy Swift, a great job with Higgins, also kind of quietly becoming a more vital part of the show, in more scenes, in more interactions, in more crucial interactions. Remember, it's him and Higgins. Higgins goes with Lasso, rather, to go get that guitar player to come in and replace Robbie Williams and to help Rebecca end the show well, or that charity auction well. And of course, it's Higgins who gets left behind in Richmond to hang out with his family to watch that. So she's slowly pushing Higgins away too, which could come back to bite her in the butt, because he does have that information, and maybe he tells Lasso, and then we get this confrontation between all three of them about what this whole situation is. And don't forget Keeley. Remember, in the second episode, or first episode, second episode, it was Rebecca who sends Higgins to get the photographer to take the pictures of Keeley to try to create division in the locker room between Lasso and Jamie. So there are, as great as we're enjoying Rebecca, as much as we're enjoying Rebecca's like rebirth or embracing or making Rebecca great again, which I think is a great title, where she's got to atone, or she's got to be confronted by this stuff. And we don't know if that's going to break the fragile coming together that this team has been accomplishing over the last 4 episodes, Shannon, which also coincides with the fact that they've been winning on the pitch. And so now we're seeing the Ted Lasso method is starting to work here. And of course, Jamie's been loaned back to Manchester City, and Ted was super mad about that because he finally gotten through to him. So what's the real story behind Jamie being sent back to Manchester City? Most clubs, if you're a Premier League player, Premier League watcher, you know, most clubs don't recall loans unless there's something really extreme happening, or the club doesn't want that player anymore. So it certainly wasn't Ted who didn't want that player anymore. So this could come out as well down the road in future episodes to play itself out. And I do want to push back just a little bit on you with Keeley. I don't think she's coarse. I don't think she's. I think what she is she's clearly a model. Clearly a spokesperson who's had to scratch and claw to succeed in what she's doing. And yeah, she's not walking around acting like she's something from a Jane Austen novel, but she is a very real person. And there is tenderness to her when she's trying to reach out to Roy, because like she said, when she had her come to Jesus moment talking with Rebecca, where she said, you know, when I was younger, I dated a 23-year-old footballer, and now I'm in my 30s and I'm still dating a 23-year-old footballer. And that was her journey that she's going on here to try to figure out what she really wants at this stage of her life. And her watching herself in that Liverpool thing is more, I think, a place as an actor. And Shannon, you know this, watching stuff you did 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there's a certain embarrassment to that, because you're like, wow, I'm way better now than I was then. And so rewatching that, I think you can see in her face that she's more embarrassed than anything else. And which is, I love when they bring it back later in that episode when Roy helps her up to stand on there when they're asking where should they go celebrate. Right. And she goes, Liverpool has all. And so it's a nice way they're doing this. So they're making you care about Keeley. They're making you care about Roy, because Roy's defenses are slowly coming down as well. Of course, Lasso you're in on, but all the other characters, they're really making you fall in love with all the other characters. And I'll be curious to see how Jamie comes back over the next 3 episodes, if he comes back, because I sense that storyline isn't over yet. And him mentioning his father, I think, is an important point too. Remember, you mentioned the mom, but you mentioned his dad, right? He said at the ceremony his dad was yelling at him and blah, blah, blah. So there's stuff to play out with that as well, I think.
Definitely. And also, when I say Keeley, when in lieu of giving the bellman a tip, she just says, "Me and my lady are going to go have a shag in the shower."
Yeah, fair. She's blunt. She tells it like it is and playfully messes with people. That's for sure.
I mean, and again, and I'm not saying that's me. She's not mean spirited. Like I don't think there's a mean bone in her body. I think she's incredibly tender. I think that's just the way she probably has a certain sense of humor. Yeah. Which, as you know, I'm a delicate flower. That's not necessarily my sense of humor.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, and I wouldn't change a bit of it. Like not at all. I think that character is 100% who that character is, and the show is better for it.
Agreed. So we'll see what happens, man. Is there anything else more we should cover? I feel like we've covered pretty much everything happening throughout this whole, and of course, and then we get Ted Lasso finally signing the papers for the divorce at the end of episode 7 as well, which is really heartbreaking. And let me tell you, they portrayed Panic Attack really well, Shannon. As someone who's had to endure them for the first time in his life over the last 2 or 3 years, everything they depicted when he was going through it was so spot on accurate, right? Your hands start to, for whatever reason, and then you're walking through places you can't hear or see anything. And when you bump into people, it's like you're about to shatter on the ground. Yeah. You feel like you're made of glass or porcelain, and then you sit down and have to and you don't know how much time has passed. Remember when we leave Rebecca, she's singing Let It Go as Ted is walking out because he's having his panic attack. When he finally comes to, Rebecca's there in front of him. Certainly there's been some time. And sometimes when you're in a panic attack, time can go for a long time, and you don't know what time it is before you get out of it. So I love that they were able to tackle that and talk about that honestly in the show. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, it seems like they're going to get together, knowing that they're, I mean, that's what it seems like to me, is that they are on, I think it's going to be a long game, but I think eventually Ted and Rebecca are going to get together. But as you mentioned, there are several roadblocks that will have to happen, that they will have to go over first. Right. And I love the character of Sam. Taheeb Jimoh. I think he's doing such a great job. I love when he goes in and asks Rebecca
are you available tonight? And she's like, oh, I'm very flattered. He's like, oh, no, it's not romantic. And him, when they're talking about the curses, and he's like, they always think the African guy is going to know all this. And she goes, and you don't? He's like, oh, no, I love it. Mainly because of Harry Potter.
Right. That's the things you get confronted with. You're like, oh, yeah, I do like this guy. I know it's a stereotype, but I do like it. So I'm confused.
Yeah, I mean, Apple TV, they had a weird, rough start. But slowly but surely, they're accumulating some really, really impressive content. I mean, between the morning show, between Ted Lasso, Little America, I've really enjoyed. They're getting some good shows.
I think Jacob was also a good show. A lot of people that was reviewed very well by a lot of critics as well. Yeah, great point. You see them kind of maybe figuring it out, shaking off the cobwebs. And look, they got a lot of money, so they can certainly make some mistakes coming out the gate. But just like Ted Lasso, he's got the team winning. Apple TV is winning right now. So it's the middle of the season. They seem to be doing well. So you got to give them props, and much props to Ellie Taylor too for playing Flo Collins in that episode. Really loved what she did there. So much fun. And Brett Goldstein. I mean, I'm going to try to get Brett Goldstein. I'm going to work hard to see if I can get to Brett Goldstein to get an interview with him, because I've enjoyed him in a number of things since, like, there's the great show on Hulu called Uncle, great British show. It was on for 2 or 3 seasons. If you haven't watched that, you're a fan of British TV, you should definitely watch that. Brett Goldstein is hilarious in that show. So overall, I'm enjoying, it was great rewatching these episodes for this review. I got, falling back in love with these characters. They're a nice breath of fresh air with everything that's happening in our world. The world is going crazy and nuts. We're in the middle of a pandemic. This show couldn't have come at a better time. And I wonder if because people, more and more people are falling in love with this show, and they're starting to pop up on social media, the posts about it. And I wonder if it's because people need a show to kind of fall in love with, feel good about, feel charming, smile, laugh, feel like there's hope in the world. And this show certainly gives you that without being saccharine, as Shannon said. And I love that is the vibe I'm getting when I'm watching this show. And I wonder if more people are discovering this show and falling in love with it because of that as well. Yeah,
I would think it would be a really kind of wise marketing decision for Apple TV to put the first episode up for free. Like, I don't know if they've done that, but give people a chance to see it.
Yep, absolutely. Maybe the first 3 episodes for sure. So shout out to everybody involved with this one, and looking forward to seeing more as we go around the corner into 8, 9, and 10 to finish off the first season of Ted Lasso. Remember, this has been picked up already for season 2, so there's excitement there for what might come, and we'll see how things end in 8, 9, and 10. All right, any final words on this one, Shannon?
No, go check this show out. I imagine there probably is some sort of trial for Apple TV. If you have bought an Apple TV product, or excuse me, an Apple product in the last year, you were supposed to get a year of Apple TV free. If you have not signed up for it, do yourself a favor, sign up.
Absolutely, great point. Trying to become an Apple TV switchman as a spokesman. I appreciate that, Shannon. Do your thing. Where can they find you, brother?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, and on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. And every week you can hear me along with Mr. Rocha and Mr. Michael Vogel on the Geek Buddies.
For sure. And we'll be doing more review. We're going to finish off this season, of course, when 8, 9, and 10 are done. We will do a review of those episodes and then a review of the entire season together. And maybe we'll convince Michael to come along if he's caught up by then, so we can do a fun little review here on the Outlaw Nation as the Geek Buddies, but under the Outlaw Nation banner. That could be a lot of fun as well, because it's a fun review. But also, don't forget, Shannon and I have also are reviewing The Vow. We've dropped the first 3, a review of the first 3 episodes, I think it was, of The Vow that is coming out slowly on HBO. That's a 9-episode series from what I understand. So
much different show. Much different.
Completely different show. So if you like to go into the hellscape of cults, The Vow is the way to go. So if you haven't watched that one, we'd recommend you watch that one as well. Get that one up over 1,000 views or 2,000 views. We'd appreciate it. But anyway, overall, fantastic stuff here from episodes 4 through 7. Looking forward to seeing what's coming up later on down the road. And we'll see if Ted keeps his winning ways going. We'll see when the revelations happen about what Hannah's been doing behind this. What Rebecca's been doing behind the scenes, and how this relationship with Keeley and Roy comes into play, and what role Sam's going to play on the team, whether Dani Dani Rojas is staying on the team. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're looking forward to it. And certainly they gave us a lot to chew on before we move on to 8, 9, and 10. And remember, this drops, I think, every Friday. A new episode drops on Apple TV for you all to enjoy who have Apple TV. And like Shannon said, if you want to sign up for free, try a free trial and burn through this stuff and enjoy it. So, all right, thanks everybody
And John, who was president in the mid 1980s?
Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
The actor? Great stuff. That's another thing. Brendan Hunt. We hardly don't mention him too much, but I know we're wrapping up. But Brendan Hunt's chemistry with Jason Sudeikis, just fantastic. I mean, the plan. Now you got me doing aces. Aces. 2 Freelies. Now you got me doing it. Great stuff going on. And I love the little boys club that's developing between Higgins and Nate, Coach Beard and Coach Lasso. I can't wait to see what more that produces down the road. So anyway, we got to wrap up before we fall in love too much with this show. Thanks everybody for watching. Please follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And please subscribe to the channel down below there for all the stuff we got going on here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Geek Buddies on the Outlaw Nation channel, as Shannon mentioned, at least on camera, the audio version of it available on podcast. You can listen to this on the podcast as well, the Outlaw Nation Podcast Network. All the shows that are on the Outlaw Nation, except for Geek Buddies, are on the Outlaw Nation Podcast Network for you to listen to as well. And please don't forget to share and like this video and leave a comment. The more comments and the likes you leave in the algorithm of YouTube, it elevates the visibility of this show and this channel, and maybe puts it on the side for people to suggest to people to watch something, and maybe they'll come aboard and watch our show, watch our reviews. So there you go. All right, that's it. I think. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll talk to you next time on another brand new review here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Take care until then. Believe.